Do you trust all the businesses that you do business with, that you give your money to? Do you have a high level of trust just in society right now? Well, data shows that trust is at an all-time low. Now, some data also shows that it's starting to rise. It's starting to rise again. But my guest today, Natalie Oldfield, she discusses trust because she is a subject matter expert. She got her master's in this, and she's built an entire company and business around measuring trust with what's called the Trust Equity Index. And she's going to talk about that today in her new book that specifically talks about how businesses can improve and instill trust in their approach to customers and doing business. So you're going to enjoy this. It's a different topic. We haven't really talked a lot about the level of trust in society and how to build trust in your business. And she's going to help you. Enjoy. On today's episode of the ThriveMore podcast, I have the pleasure of speaking with Natalie Doyle Oldfield. She's the president of Success Through Trust and the leading expert on how companies can grow revenue by creating trusted relationships with customers and employees. She's also the author of 2 books, not one, but 2, on trust. The first one is The Power of Trust, How Top Companies Build, Manage, and Protect It, and a new book just out called Trusted, the Proven Path to Customer Loyalty and Business Growth. So we'll talk about both those today. She's also the creator of the Client Trust Index, which is an evidence-based diagnostic tool that quantifies a company's trust equity, also something that she's come up with. Utilizing these tools along with her database proprietary trust-building framework, Natalie has consulted with and trained hundreds of companies across the globe to sharpen their ability to build and maintain profitable relationships, easy for me to say, that lead to company growth by instilling her 8 key principles of trust. That's honestly just a long-winded way of me introducing Natalie as the expert on trust. I cannot wait to get into this conversation. Natalie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Roger. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So this is really cool because we talk about business on here. We talk about health, talk about how to grow your wealth. And, trust is something that is part of all of that. And certainly part of business and a part of establishing a wealth profile. But we don't talk about it on this show a lot other than just, how it plays into business. But you're a true expert on this. So before we dive in, can you just share with us how in the heck does one become an expert on trust, and what drew you to this topic to become a subject matter expert?
My whole career, I have been intrigued and fascinated by a few simple questions. Things like, what makes people tick? How do customers decide to buy?
Yeah.
Why are some companies successful and others not? And I got so intrigued by these questions and so wanted the answer that while I was working full-time as chief marketing officer for a software company, I decided to go back to school and did graduate research to answer the question, how is it that customers decide to buy, and why are some companies successful and others not? And what I found is that all the paths were taking me down to, it all comes down to one simple yet complex and critical element, and that is having the trust of your customer and being trusted. And I got so fascinated by this that I did my whole master's in studying how to build trust, how companies build trust with customers. And what I learned is that in every organization, it doesn't matter if you're an institution or a small private business or you're a franchisee, we all are in business to serve customers. And the most successful businesses, most successful institutions, organizations have the trust of those they serve. And as you know, some businesses call their customers subscribers, others might call them patients or students or, users, but they're customers. And so I did my whole master's graduate research on this. And my thesis was all around how to build trust with external stakeholders. And then I realized that there wasn't a way to measure trust. And with my business hat on, I knew that what gets managed is what can be measured. And my whole career, I always worked with people that would ask me, what's the return on investment? How do we know?
Sure.
And so I created a measurement tool called the Client Trust Index so that we can measure a magical term that I call trust equity.
Yeah.
It's a term that I coined years ago because I really believe that that's what companies should all be striving towards, is having the trust equity of your stakeholders, your customers. And so I got so intrigued by this that I created a diagnostic tool, like I said, the Client Trust Index, as you had mentioned. And now I teach people all over the world how to build trust with customers or teams. And it is based on science and evidence. It was based in academia. I did graduate, and then I went on to continue to create the framework. So it was tested, and I now work with companies all over the world to teach them how to build trust.
That's awesome. I wanted to ask you, how do you validate, right? So whenever there's a tool, an assessment and diagnostic tool, be it like a Wonderlic test or Colby Index or whatever, person at Myers-Briggs, whatever, they always have to be vetted and tested to know that it's a repeatable, predictable result. How did you do that with trust?
Well, all of those tools that you're mentioning, I follow the same process. So you mentioned in the introduction that I have 2 books. So my first book, The Power of Trust, How Top Companies Build, Manage, and Protect It, we actually dive into the theory and the research of how we decide to trust. And I outline there's actually several different stages, Roger. So it's really about sample size. So first, you create a tool, and then you test it, and then you tweak it, and then you test it again. And so for me, with the Client Trust Index, it happened over a 7-year process, which is why I said, I created an academia, tested it then with increasingly large sample sizes outside. And that's how these tools are created using the scientific method. And you test for confidence levels and correlation coefficients and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I grew up in the pharmaceutical industry, so
okay,
p value, right? Gotta have greater than or less than a 0.05 p value.
Yeah.
So if a company were to hire you, a business were to hire you, what should those leaders expect? Like, what is the process of working with Natalie to assess our trust, and I guess just as importantly, to improve it?
Well, it depends, right? So if we can back up a step, Roger,
Please.
So I can explain what I mean when I say it depends. So it depends. Typically what happens is most companies don't realize that, or don't call their business challenge a trust problem or a trust challenge. So when companies reach out to me, they're reaching out to me because they have a business challenge. So they have revenue that is either slumped or declining, or maybe it's flat. They have an increase in customer complaints. They might have clients complaining about certain people in the organization, or saying, if we don't have Roger on the account, we're going to leave and go to the competition. They might have customer retention issues. These are all what I would call business issues that show up when there is a possible trust issue. So that's typically when they call me, or they say, you know what, we just really want everybody to focus on the customer, and we want everybody to have a wonderful customer experience. Some very proactive companies that are, the best of the best already, really know that it's a competitive differentiator, and they really want to make sure that everybody in the company knows how, everybody has the skill set to be able to build and maintain and protect relationships of trust. So that's why it depends. So if a company already has an issue, they have a business problem that they're trying to address, typically what I might do, and I'm thinking about a client that I worked with recently, they called me because they said, we've had in the past couple of months, some of our long-term customers leaving or threatening to leave, giving them the heads up they're going to leave and go to the competition. So I, in the perfect world, would do an assessment, a diagnostic.
Mm-hmm.
So we would measure the trust equity of their customers in that company. So that involves a survey. So I would survey their clients, talk to their clients, see what their trust equity score is. And then from there, we could see where the gaps are, where the opportunities are, where the cracks are in the business, if you will.
This segment is sponsored by Rockbox Fitness Franchising. Take control of your destiny and join the boutique fitness revolution with Rockbox Fitness. If you're ready to make a real impact in your community and own your own business that empowers people to achieve their best life, then Rockbox is the opportunity you've been looking for. They provide comprehensive support from site selection, upfit, training, and turnkey marketing, so you can open your studio with confidence and a strong recurring revenue member base. Visit rockboxfitness.com and click on franchise opportunities to learn more about this exciting venture in the fast-growing boutique fitness industry. It's time to turn your passion for fitness and for business into a thriving venture. I'm a business owner.
Yes.
I own several businesses.
Yes.
And if someone came to me and said, you have a trust issue with your customers,
yeah,
the hackles would go up. Now, I wouldn't deny it because I'm a big believer in, it's my responsibility. It's, it doesn't matter why it happened. I own it. It's my fault because I'm the owner. But man, that is such, that term triggers people I can only imagine, because what you're saying is it's you, it's something about you and your business that is being unethical, that is being, so right. When you deliver that, they brought you in to solve, hey, we have customers leaving, we can't figure out why. And then you say, well, they don't trust you. There's a trust issue. How do they respond to that?
Well, there's a continuum on how much you trust, which is why I measure trust equity. How much trust equity you have, Roger.
Okay.
And so it shows up, like I said, in all these other business indicators. But at the root, at the foundation of all these, our trust is trust. And so to fix a problem, to address an issue, we need to address that issue. And that is building relationships of trust. So trust, really, when I say, you have a trust issue, it's a relationship, right? Trust is about having a relationship. So when I say you have a trust issue, they usually already know that by the conversations. Some of my clients, they, like I said, it's masked in other business issues, but it always comes down to trust. And so one of the things that I mention in my new book, Trusted, the Proven Path to Customer Loyalty and Business Growth, is that it does show up in these business issues. And instead of, throwing spaghetti at the wall, trying to figure out what your challenge is, it always comes down to trust.
Yeah.
Because for all our businesses, it doesn't matter what business we're in, whether we're in the fitness business or we have a sauna business or, in construction or professional services or engineering. It's about the people.
Yeah, it's a relationship.
Right? It's about how we communicate, how we behave, and how we serve. And so most of my clients, if we do a diagnostic and we find out where the cracks are, we can do very specific development and training and put together a plan to either protect what they have if they have really high trust equity, or to make some tweaks to improve the trust. Other companies, they know, okay, you know what? I have one client that I'm working with right now, actually, that their annual kickoff is next month. And so we're going to do a 2-day workshop on how to build trust with their customers. And we're diving right into learning the step-by-step process of how to build trust so that everybody in the company has the vocabulary and has the tools and has the know-how how to do it. So, that's why I say it depends.
Yeah.
We'll start with diagnostic. That's best practice. I have a program I call Trust Equity Accelerator, and that includes the diagnostic, the plan, and typically some professional development, because again, it all comes down to people.
Mm-hmm.
Other programs, I have a trust mastery program, and that's for companies that know that it's about the people and they want to start with developing and providing professional development for the folks on the team.
I read somewhere that consumer trust, just B2C kind of consumer trust, is at an all-time low. I think social media has driven us there faster because just the way information is disseminated and whatnot. But the consumer trust is an all-time low. Are you seeing that also in business to business? I mean, a business is still a consumer of another business. You could argue, but are you seeing trust just overall? Does the data support that trust in our society is at an all-time low?
I've seen data that it's in an all-time low, but I've also seen data that it's rising.
Okay.
What I would say, Roger, is that I've been in business now for over a decade at Success Through Trust. And what I've seen is that people, business to business or business to consumer, people and customers are more skeptical now than they've ever been. And they are more demanding, and they have access to information. They want more transparency, and they're empowered, and they're prioritizing their decisions on who to work for, who to work with, who to buy from, who to invest in based on who they trust.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
That is what I'm seeing, that we are, people are more skeptical. And so companies and people that are trusted will be the ones that will emerge as the most successful companies. And we can see it, wherever we are.
I mean, I could make a guess on who some of the most trusted companies are, but just for the audience, could you share 2-3 examples of a company that would score off the charts on the trust index, or as high as reasonably possible?
Well, I have a lot of clients that I work with that score really high, Roger. And to keep their anonymity, I won't share their names, but I have clients in the healthcare industry, manufacturing companies that provide services to, building materials and healthcare.
How about companies, like big companies that we would know? I mean, I guess what is coming to my mind is Apple, right? Like I would think Apple would have a fairly high trust equity with its consumers, but I could be wrong on that.
No, I think you're right. And so the reason I would agree with you is because when sometimes when I do a workshop with a company, or people enroll in the Trust Mastery program where they learn the step-by-step process to become a trusted leader and to master the skill set, I often ask, tell me about companies that are highly trusted. And Roger, every single time, no matter if the audience is all over North America, some of the Trust Mastery programs, we would have 15 people in the program, and, they're from all over North America. Apple always comes up, Always. Yeah. So I do agree with you. Another company that always comes up is Costco. Sam's Club always comes up. The Starbucks often comes up. I would say Starbucks comes up because it's consistent, it's predictable, and it's reliable. They do a fantastic job. Nike also comes up. They also are consistent, predictable, and reliable.
And are those you've said that twice. Is that really the three components: consistent, and reliable? Or did I say that? Did I say consistent twice?
Those are the most of. So though there are 8 principles of building trust, and that's one principle. And so for restaurants and for products that consistency, predictability, and reliability is really important. And for Starbucks, there are a lot of reasons I would say they're trusted. Not only that, but they're also show that they have a social conscience. Mm-hmm. And that's increasingly important to people. So, Apple, Starbucks, Nike, like I said, Costco. People love Costco and Sam's Club because, there's multiple reasons, but they are highly trusted companies, which then, affects the loyalty and the referrals because they're so trusted. A benefit of being trusted is people refer you, they stay with you, and they buy more from you.
Yeah, for sure. This segment is sponsored by Beamlight Sauna Franchising. Are you looking to take control of your destiny and own your own business? Do you want a great brand in a rapidly growing market? Well, Beamlight Sauna is a nationwide health and wellness franchise with amazing opportunities in select markets. You can bring the power of infrared sauna and red light therapy to your community while you build a thriving business. Beamlight Sauna offers support that includes site selection, build out, even pre-launch programs and turnkey marketing so you can open your studio with a large recurring revenue member base. To learn more about business ownership and franchise opportunities in the fast-growing health and wellness space, go to beamlightsauna.com. That's BEEM lightsauna.com and click on franchise opportunities to learn more. Or what's an example? Because I want to make this tangible for the audience. You engage with a company, you realize, okay, you got a trust issue. You're low with your trust equity is low. The leaders are like, all right, we admit it. We took a left turn where we should have gone right. Help us. Where have you seen the biggest game changer effect for your clients? Like if I'm listening and I have a business and I have too much churn in my customer base, I'm losing customers. I probably have a trust issue. It's either I'm not delivering the value or there's a trust issue or something. Let's assume it's a trust issue. And I want to improve that. I want to keep customers longer. I want to have them refer more. I'm sure, Natalie, there's 50 things they can do, or you give them a list of 100 they need to do. But what is like one or maybe two things that if you're going to move the needle, at minimum, you do these two things? What would those be?
I would say with a churn issue, the number one thing to move the needle would be to gather the people together, whether it's on Zoom, online like you and I are today, or in person, all the customer-facing people, Roger, and bring them together and have a conversation about the customer experience. And to be mindful that it all comes down to the people. You can have the best product in the world or the best service with the most patents and the best process and the best technology. But if your people on your team are not communicating, behaving, and serving your customers in a trustworthy way, that's where it breaks down. So the number one thing I would do is bring these customer-facing people together and have a conversation around the customer experience. That's one thing. And then the second thing I would do is teach them, and it is a skill you can learn, how to become more trustworthy. Teach them how to apply the 8 principles of trust to each and every relationship. And that, just those 2 things, or even to simplify it even more, bring them together and have the conversation about customer experience. And number 2, have them put themselves in the customer's shoes so that they understand the customer's perspective and how what they do is affecting the customer.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's so many things. It's such a great question, Roger.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Let's talk then about your book that is just come out, your new one. And what I guess really just the main question is, somebody goes to the bookstore, goes on Amazon to order this. What do you hope they take from it? What would make you proud as a second-time author that they leave this book with?
I would love it if they left after reading it, they learned new tools and new strategies on how to become the most trusted. So that would make me so happy and so proud. It really is a guide, Roger, to become the most trusted, and the proven path to become the most trusted and to gain loyalty and business growth is by applying these 8 principles of trust. And so the book is a collection of real client stories, Roger. And you asked a really great question about what would you do if you had churn? Well, there are 8 chapters in the book, and each chapter starts with, like I said, a client story and the problem that they had. So one chapter is all about customer churn. Another chapter is about long-term customers leaving and going to the competition. Another chapter is about being ghosted. See, all of these are real challenges that business owners and leaders like those that are listening to today have. We all have these in our businesses. And so each chapter starts with a story, and then it talks about what they did and how they overcame it. And then every chapter includes a framework, and every chapter includes a section that I call Making It Happen. And that's how to make it really practical and operationalize it in your business so that the book is a guide and it can help you move the needle.
Okay, cool. Super cool. And available on Amazon and bookstores, or where else
It's available on Amazon.
Yeah.
And you can find it under my name, Natalie Doyle Oldfield, or Trusted, The Proven Path to Customer Loyalty and Business Growth.
Cool. And we'll even put the link there, a direct link to buy it right there in the show notes.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, some few more questions for you. One of the questions I ask every guest, because I really believe that leaders are readers, and that continuing education, self-education, self-improvement, personal growth is so important to not just business, but your life.
Yes.
Is there a book, and you can't pick your own, that's cheating. Is there a book that you've read? It doesn't have to be recently, but just a book that you've read and it could be on any topic, when you set it down, you just went, woof, I will never think about that the same way. Like that's going to rattle around in my brain for a long time. That really changed the way I view something, or I feel about something. What book would you recommend to the listeners?
There's a lot.
Sure.
I love books, Roger.
Yeah.
I mean, what I love about books is they change your whole worldview, and books can change lives. I really believe that.
Before you answer, I had a guest on here who actually owns a publishing company and helps people publish, get publicity for their books. And his quote is, "The right book at the right time for the right person, will change their life." And it's so true. It's so true.
So true.
Yeah.
So, I recently reread for the second time Atomic Habits. And by James Clear. So I read that several years ago when it first came out. And that really, stayed in my head, as you said. And I reread it about a month ago. And so that's the one I think I'm going to choose because it was significant and so well written and so simple, yet so powerful.
Yeah. That book has been recommended by several guests on this show. I'm at episode 100 and something, and he has gotten a lot of free publicity on this show because he wrote a great book. He wrote a great book and changed people's lives. This one's a little different, right? We're going to step away from business. And we fast forward to the end of your life, and we're at your funeral. You know, you've lived this long, beautiful, great life. Not only the length of it, but the width of it. But it's come to an end. And somebody that you love, a loved one, is reading your eulogy. And that person is only allowed 3 words to describe the impact that Natalie had on them and the world. And it doesn't have to make a phrase or anything, just like 3 words. What 3 words do you hope they choose to describe the life you led?
Well, this is not easy for me, Roger. I recently wrote a eulogy, so this is not easy because it really made me think about all these things. And 3 words, I love that you're only asking 3. So I think that I'm going to say thoughtful, family, and kind.
Wonderful.
If I had a 4th, it might say energetic. Everyone always says I'm so energetic and passionate.
I love it.
So, but those 3.
So you wrote a eulogy for someone else, for someone that had passed. Okay. I will share with you and share with the audience. I may have shared this before. There's an incredibly powerful exercise to do for personal growth, for self-development. And that is, and really to get clarity on life, is to write your own eulogy now, today. Write and fast forward. How many years left do you think you have? You know, take a guess, and then say, okay, then if I were to pass at 85, 90, whatever it is, whatever that number is, so that it's really clear. You know, it's not just a little silly exercise, but you really go to that day and you look, and then write that 1 or 2 page eulogy of someone writing about you in third person. And I'll tell you, Natalie, it gives you clarity in ways you can't imagine because you realize who you want to be, and then you set it up against who you are today. Hopefully there's a pretty close match.
Yeah.
But for me, it showed me there's not a complete match, and I need to start working on getting congruent to make it a complete match. And it's just, to me, it's wasn't my idea. I got this out of a book, but it's a very powerful way to get alignment on what really matters. And I would just encourage you and everybody listening, take the time, set an hour aside and freehand with a real pen, a real piece of paper, and write your eulogy in third person. And man, it will wake your soul up to what really matters. And let's get busy living, doing the things that matter, and not get wrapped around the axle about all the stuff that doesn't. Then last fun question, and then I want to find out where people can follow you and get a hold of you and stuff. I'm going to hand you a magic wand, and you're going to take this magic wand and you're going to wave it tonight. And you, Natalie, are going to make one material change to the world. You're going to make one change with this magic wand on the way the world operates, the way people are, the way the world works, whatever. But you can only make one change, but it can be as big as you want it to be. You wave that magic wand tonight. We wake up tomorrow. How is the world different according to you?
Well, if I wave the wand, Roger, every company, every leader, every business owner would want to be the most trusted, and they would want to be always striving to build trust with their customers, their employees, all their stakeholders. And I think that would really change things up if everybody was focused on that.
Love it. Love it. Well, how can people find you or connect with you, follow you so that they can be part of your journey as well?
You can find me on Amazon.com or Amazon.de or CA, wherever. That's where you can find me and my books there. You can also find me on my website, which is successthroughtrust.com. And you can find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with you. It's Natalie Doyle Oldfield on LinkedIn. And on my website, there is a section that you can sign up for my newsletter. And that's a way for us to stay in touch on a regular basis. I have a customer champion scorecard there and a customer readiness scorecard. If anyone wants to fill that out to see how you're doing and how ready you are. And that's complimentary. It just takes about 2 minutes to look at that, and would love to hear from any of you. So LinkedIn is good, or Amazon, or my website, successthroughtrust.com.
Cool. We'll put all those in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your expertise around this topic that is so important in business and in life.
It's great to meet you, Roger. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to the ThriveMore podcast. Don't forget to take a look at the show notes for any of the resources that we mentioned during the podcast. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you have access to the latest and the greatest. You can connect with me on any of the socials at Real Roger Martin. And be sure to check out our website, ThriveMoreBrands.com. There you'll find information on the brands we support and information on franchising. Thanks again for tuning in.